We welcome to the program Emily Gravlee. Did I pronounce it correct, Emily? Is it Gravlee or Gravely?
It is Gravely. You pronounced it perfectly.
Okay, great. Emily Gravely, fourth-year Ole Miss doctoral student in pharmacy administration at the University of Mississippi. So we've seen some reports about some pharmacies being reluctant to dispense naloxone. I think I pronounced that correctly. Tell us about that. What's this drug used for? What's its purpose, and why are there concerns about it?
Sure. So naloxone is a medication that can actually reverse an opioid overdose. We know that opioid overdoses have been rising across Mississippi. So this medication is an opportunity to prevent a death potentially from an opioid overdose. So what we did in our study is we looked at naloxone availability under our state standing order for naloxone. And we found that about 37% of all pharmacies had naloxone and were willing to dispense it under the standing order, and about 40% were unwilling to dispense it under the standing order.
And so what are the concerns? Is it causing problems? Is it just not acting as it is intended? A little of both?
Well, so what we know is we have enacted legislation in our state to make naloxone available under a state standing order. So what that state standing order means is that a patient can go to the pharmacy and they should be able to ask the pharmacist for naloxone and receive it under a standing prescription through the State Department of Health. So you don't have to go see a healthcare provider to get naloxone. And we did this obviously to increase access to naloxone across the state. We really wanted it to be available to people. And so what our study found is that maybe it's not as available as we hoped it would be under that state standing order.
Okay, so what's causing the supply chain challenges?
So I'm not sure exactly about any supply chain challenges. I don't know if I
Okay,
can speak to those.
okay,
Yeah, but as far as reasons that,
okay,
pharmacies don't have it, um, we found that about 40%, that 40% of pharmacies were unwilling to dispense it under the state standing order. And of those 40%, 75% said that a patient required a prescription. So this really seems like it may be an education issue around the
okay.
standing order in our state.
So it's not really a shortage or the any problems in the supply chain as it pertains to the ability to just produce the drug itself. It's just more a matter of pharmacists just being reluctant, being hesitant to dispense it. Is that true?
Potentially. And so potentially, I think one of the things that our study did is it described access to naloxone. But aside from that information, we have about some pharmacists not appearing to know or some pharmacies not appearing to dispense under the standing order. We can't really
Okay.
provide any additional insight into why we're seeing what we're seeing.
Okay. So was this actually some research that you did personally that the department did that School of Pharmacy did at Ole Miss to dig up all this information about the hesitancy of pharmacists and pharmacies across the state? How did that come about?
So this was actually my master's thesis project. So this is
Okay.
something that I conceptualized, and you know, my department supported me, but
Okay.
I spearheaded the project and had quite a few School of Pharmacy students helping me to complete it.
Okay. Gotcha. So as part of that process, did you interview pharmacists and pharmacy the business people themselves, or how did you get this information?
Sure. So what was really neat about this study is that it was actually a secret shopper study. So we had a
Hmm.
list of kind of open door community pharmacies in the state, and we would call the pharmacies and ask them if they had naloxone available. So we
Okay.
had, 591 pharmacies that we called and we collected data from. But the key is they didn't know we were collecting their data at the time. So this project really took on that patient perspective. If I were a patient who needed naloxone, could I get it at this pharmacy? Um, so that was fun, exciting, and really gave us that insight into that patient piece, I think.
So it appears that in your research that some pharmacists were unaware of the standing order and others had some reluctance just based on their view that the drug is only designed for use by addicts and abusers. Is that true?
So my research didn't find that. What we
Okay.
did find again, so 37% had it available, so on hand and willing to dispense under the standing order. And that 40% that had it unavailable, that was unavailable under the standing order to our,
Yep.
mystery caller that was calling their pharmacy. And again, unless they provided us any information as to why they didn't make naloxone available under the standing order, we didn't have it. But again, I will reiterate that 75% of that 40% said that we needed a prescription. So I think that this
Hmm.
speaks more to an awareness issue. What can I do under the standing order? What is the standing order? And how can I use it to help my patients? So I think
Okay.
that's more of what our research pointed to.
So as a result of your findings, are you now or authorities, I guess, boards, are they going to communicate this and try to educate pharmacies and pharmacists about this, just for clarity?
That is what we hoped would happen with this research. So I have spoken with the Mississippi State Department of Health. I visited a drug utilization review board for the Mississippi Division of Medicaid last week to talk a little bit about this and kind of promote that idea that maybe we do need more education of our pharmacists if we really want the standing order to work as well as it can for the people of Mississippi.
Okay. So, but is it only for the purpose, this particular drug, for those who have abused drugs, experience some sort of reaction to that drug abuse, some sort of physical problem, clinical problem, and they need this drug to counteract that?
So I will say naloxone is for any opioid overdose. It's not necessarily just for people who use opioid drugs illicitly. So it
Okay.
may be someone who has a prescription medication for an opioid. Maybe they've forgotten they took too much on accident. Naloxone could save their life. Maybe they're
Okay.
a grandparent who has chronic pain and an opioid prescription, and they have grandchildren who visit their home regularly. So this is for any opioid overdose and not just for people who use drugs.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. I get it. Well, and I got that from the press release that I saw. I guess it's a press release. The statement about that where some pharmacists believe that it's only for addicts and abusers, and there's some hesitancy as a result of that stigma, and that's why I asked that question. But you point out, no, there are folks that have legally been prescribed opioids for various ailments, and they run the risk of possibly overdosing, I guess, on those and causing problems. And naloxone can help them with that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, that makes sense. So, sounds to me like it's more of an education need than anything else. But I gotta believe. I mean, you're studying this, and you're about to be out in the world, I assume, practicing as a pharmacist, that this is constant because we're constantly inventing our pharmaceutical manufacturers new drugs, and they're complicated. And there's all sorts of things you need to know about that. That's the purpose of a pharmacist and their dispensing. I mean, I think most people listening would say, yeah, I've gone to pick up a prescription, and you're always asked and typically have to sign off. Do you need advice? Do you need counsel on this? And it's their job to help you and also make sure you don't have some other issue with taking other prescriptions or other drugs or other lifestyles that may conflict and cause problems. Is that true? Just checking.
So I will say, pharmacists, I am a pharmacist, by the way. So
Okay.
pharmacists do, have information about drugs and medication interactions, and they can counsel patients on how to take medications appropriately and can even potentially recommend naloxone under the standing order to patients.
Okay. I got you. Well, this is fascinating, and we appreciate you coming on and explaining this. And I hope we continue to communicate and educate the pharmacy community in the state of Mississippi so we can get on board and do the right thing. Appreciate you joining us, Emily. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks so much. If I can say one more thing, the Mississippi State Department of Health has actually made naloxone available free to people. So if you go to odfree.org, you can get a free naloxone kit through the State Department of Health.
Got it. Appreciate it.